All right.
Now. All right. So welcome to the very first episode of the Paebles and Jables podcast. I think, I do think we need to workshop that, but we'll get there. I'm JB Reckel. Across the screen is my good buddy Bryant Pay. How you doing, man?
All right, man.
Life's good.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff.
Excited for this first episode that we're doing.
Yeah, and I think, I guess right now this is a podcast about like entertainment, movies, but it kind of could be whatever we want it to be. We could just talk about whatever.
Yes, sir. Excited to talk about the Eagles someday. And crazy.
Yeah, not this year. Not this year, but maybe in a couple years. But so today we're going to talk about the Zach Snyder cut of the Justice League that dropped on HBO, I think about a couple weeks ago now, HBO Max. So yeah, what are your overall thoughts on this movie? Let's just start there.
All right. Yeah. So let's just go back to the beginning. So, first, me, man, like Batman v Superman, like I'm like the ultimate Batman fan. And when the movie was coming out, I was telling people it was going to win an Oscar, and my expectations were just so high. And inevitably they were crushed, right? So going into the Snyder cut, like my expectations were bottom barrel, man. So I was expecting a lot of the same flaws that I saw in Batman v Superman going into this movie. So, like a lot, flaws in characters, like very, very little, ton of slow motion. I was expecting that from, right from the get-go. And, just an overall, probably a really messy and almost incomprehensible story, right? But going into this, I'm watching it, and right away I'm like blown away by how cohesive the story just felt, right? So, that original theatrical cut that was released was an absolute disaster. And there were so many parts that I hated, and I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad they cut that out. I'm so glad they cut that out. And then, I think this movie, it's very interesting to see like two different visions of two different directors. And we get a very rare opportunity to be able to compare like this one directly to like what the original was supposed to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a very fascinating case study for me, just to see, like the way that different scenes were edited, how the same footage was used, but just by changing little things here, adding in a few more seconds here to this scene just changed everything. So overall, I was incredibly pleased. And the Flash, man, the Flash was amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say that that this movie was perfect. I still have some gripes with it. Mainly, I just like I still just feel like at the end of the line that Zack Snyder just might not really understand the Batman character. For me, I will talk about that later. But I just felt like essentially his main role was just an ATM for the team. And outside of that, without his technology, he just couldn't really do much. And I just felt like that's not really Batman. So that was my biggest problem. But otherwise, the story was cohesive, so epic. There were so many parts could not believe they cut out, right? And like I think this movie is like a 7.5 out of 10. That was I think the overall score I gave this was a 7.5 out of 10. So, which is a really, all right. So what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with almost everything you said, pretty much everything you said there. I thought the biggest thing for me is just how much more cohesive this movie was, right? And like, and I do think that it helped. What helped that was that this was a 4-hour movie, which in my opinion is actually a con with this movie. And we can get into that. I mean, you're not going to release a 4-hour movie in theaters, right? Like you would have had to cut probably an hour and a half of this. So I think this is such an interesting like case study. Like you said, I mean, the whole story around like this movie from the start, and then like Zack Snyder's story and, the tragedy he dealt with. And then Whedon came on and there were issues there with, some of the actors in the studio. I mean, it's crazy. And now 4 or 5 years later, we have the Snyder cut, which apparently turned into like an internet movement. I didn't even know it was like hashtag Snyder cut. And I don't know if you read his article. He had an interview in Vanity Fair recently. And he was saying like, when that movement started online, he like wasn't about, he's like, I don't want to do that. And then like it kept picking up steam and he's like, okay, like, yeah, maybe I should. And then he actually got behind it and like started driving it. So I just think the whole story is crazy. And you're right. Like we're seeing the same movie, but in two different directors' like visions, which like, when have we ever seen that before? I mean, maybe there's a case, but I don't know. This is just, it's really interesting. So yeah, I agree with everything you said. I mean, it was so much more cohesive. I mean, it looked so much better. It looked like a Zack Snyder movie, right? Like that's it. It was epic, which like his movies usually are. Um, yeah, I mean, I think every single character honestly had an upgrade. Um, Even like the villains, which we saw some new villains. I just think, yeah, it was such a more enjoyable watching experience. I just came out of it more. I was just way more satisfied. Like I mean, I haven't seen the first one since it came out because I have no reason to rewatch it really. But I don't know. I came out of that movie and I was like, what did I just watch? Like, why? I don't know. Like, it's just something about it. It just didn't feel satisfying to me. And this, I don't know. I feel like we finally have like that gratification. And you know what sucks now is that now I want to see the DC EU. Like, I want to see what the future of this is going to hold. Like after the theatrical version came out, I was like, I'm done. I'm pretty much done with DC. Like, I'll probably watch Wonder Woman and stuff, but like, I'm pretty much done with this. And now I'm like, no, I want more. I want more because I think like this just, and it ended in like such a way where, it's building up for the next couple Justice League movies. And I don't know, who knows if we're ever going to get those. Right. So we'll see. But yeah, I agree. I overall I really liked it. I think I give it an 8 out of 10. Honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed watching this movie. So where do you want to start? I mean, do you want to start with overall like the good things the things you like the most, and then
Yeah,
we can go
well,
from
I
there?
actually, dude, let's talk about that Twitter movement that led to this
Okay.
movie because that is absolutely, absolutely crazy. Like this movie was just willed into existence
Yep.
by fans, and so like I was like following it from like the get go, and first of all, like his daughter commits suicide, and that was
Hmm.
horrible, right? And then like obviously, he was going to step down, and then obviously, and then at the time you're like seeing, oh, they're bringing on the guy that did the Avengers movies, and you're like, okay. And the whole time, like Batman v Superman's biggest gripe was that it was just too dark, right? So they're like totally like trying to get away from that, and they bring in the guy who did like the Avengers, and then he adds in a bunch of jokes, right? And then you see this and you're like, this movie's trash, what is this, right? And then you see like a bunch of people saying this wasn't Zack Snyder's intended vision, blah blah blah. And then like you said, they hashtag release the Snyder cut was like a thing for like a while, right? And then I remember seeing that and just people complaining all the time, being like, does the Snyder cut exist? And like I was like, okay, like if it does exist, the movie's definitely terrible. So like, why are we like, well, like, what's even the point?
Right.
But it just kept gaining traction. And then Ben Affleck was tweeting it out, and Gal Gadot, and then before you knew it, like Zack Snyder like tweeted that the movie does exist, and then like these Snyder fans lost their mind. And then it was like the train had really gained steam, and then Warner Brothers says that they're going to release it. So like the fact that this movie even exists, I think just really goes to show like the power of like a social movement that like Release the Snyder Cut can really have. And I think in a lot of ways it shows that the studio is willing to admit that they were wrong
Hmm.
to be able to release this. And dude, I'm 100% with you. Like I thought I would watch this and just be like, yep, that was exactly what I thought it was, and whatever, right? But now I'm like, I want to see more. Like
Yeah.
I want to see what that apocalypse world is, man. I
Dude,
want
I
to
want to see a Batman movie with Deathstroke in it. Like that's what I want, and that's what was teased. Like
yeah,
that's I how bad do you want to see that? I
dude,
want to
you're
see
gonna
that so bad.
like Batman works with Deathstroke and Joker. They have a fucking truce, and
It's
then we don't
crazy.
more. Oh my
It's crazy. I know, I totally agree. I mean, you're right about, I mean, it is crazy what social media can do. I mean, we've seen that in almost
yeah.
every aspect of life now. But and I also think, I mean, streaming made this possible too, right? Like this would, if we didn't have HBO Max or like a streaming service to put this on, how would this have ever gotten released? Like what would they have done? you know.
Right.
So it's really it's such an interesting story, honestly. I love it. But yeah, I think and actually I have a quote. I did write down one quote from the Vanity Fair article, because you said you know, you mentioned how like basically the Warner Bros knew that like what they did in the beginning was wrong, and like they just messed up, and they came back to Snyder and like, hey, release your cut. So they actually I have a quote from, I don't know who the executive at Warner Bros was at the time, but basically this is in the Vanity Fair article. He said, when we got to see what Josh Whedon actually did, it was stupefying. Uh, the robber on the rooftop, so goofy and awful. The Russian family, so useless and pointless. Everyone knew it. It was so awkward because nobody wanted to admit what a piece of shit it was.
Zack
That
Snyder.
no. That was a quote from an anonymous studio exec at Warner Bros. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So like even they knew, right? Like they brought Whedon on, the movie hadn't released yet, and they knew this is gonna be a piece of shit, it was gonna flop. But at that point, like, what are they gonna do? Like they have to release this movie. Um, so yeah, it's a crazy story. But yeah, so I kind of want to hear what your, you know, the things you like the most about this movie.
Okay. Yeah. So here are the notes that I took. So first of all, um, I so I mentioned before, like I still don't think that he really understands Batman as a character. But that being said, I think all of the characters were absurdly improved on. So like even Batman, like when in the theatrical cut of Batman, so like Ben Affleck gave a very committed performance in Batman v Superman. Like no matter what my problems were with that movie, like Ben Affleck, you could see that he was acting his absolute goddamn heart out. He was like really trying. And then when I watched the theatrical cut, he had put on a lot of pounds and he looked out of shape.
He's making
And
stupid little quips. Like that's not him. That's
like talking about like wind up penguins, and like he's like,
yeah.
it's just not the same, right? So it was really awesome for me to see Ben Affleck returning as like that, like jaded and like really like and just serious Batman that's like that's all business. And I feel like that's the kind of character that Batman should be.
Yeah, and
um
especially I think like this version of Batman, right? Like he's kind of like an older, just like darker Bruce Wayne, right? He's not like the Christian Bale Bruce Wayne that we saw in, you know, in the Nolan verse, right? Like that was like prime, almost like prime Batman. I don't know if this is, I want to say this is like not prime Batman we're seeing in like Justice League, but it's just a different kind of Bruce Wayne and Batman. And yeah, and I like that. And I agree. Like in the Snyder cut, that's what he was. In the Whedon version, he was not that. Like he was making these stupid jokes, and I was like, this is not Batman. This is dumb.
he's like complaining about his shoulder, and Wonder Woman has to pop it back in for him, and I'm like, what the
Yeah.
hell is going on? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but so I did take a few notes. So like that Wonder Woman fight scene. So like comparing that to the theatrical. So first of all, that scene is like twice as long, but essentially the same things happen. But in the theatrical Josh Whedon's cut, I felt really cheesy and really dumb, and like the music choice and just the pacing of the scene was like really really quick, and it just came off as like a really generic scene. And then in the Snyder cut, they really slowed things down, and they introduce and just by like slowing that introduction of the villains, it really gave you a lot more sense of danger and like attachment to the characters. So then when Wonder Woman comes in, the music is different, everything is different, and I just felt like right away, like that was like the first real shock to me, was like seeing how different that scene was, and then remembering that scene in the theatrical cut, and remember hating that scene, right?
Yeah.
So and then when it comes in, she's like pa 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 pa, and like
Yeah.
deflects right away, and you're like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on? So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so like that was like a really good scene for me. And then the Themyscira scene, when like I couldn't believe that Josh Whedon cut out the part where uh the Amazonian leader is like daughters of Themyscira, show them your fear, and then they're like, we have no fear. I couldn't believe they cut that out.
Yeah.
That
That was such a cool part. I totally agree.
was amazing part. Yeah, and then there's a lot of scenes that I compare against the theatrical cut, but I just want to kind of go right to the Flash. So the
Okay.
cyborg obviously gets a lot of added details, but for me, like the Flash's character was the biggest change because, in the theatrical cut, he goes from, being like a kid that's like, oh, I've never been in a fight before, just push some people and run away. And Batman has to be like, man up and just save one person. And then this one, the guy's just like doing his best,
Mm-hmm.
and right from the get go, he's like, just being an absolute contributor to the team. And then at the end, instead of being like some guy who just pushed the sidelines and saves this Russian family that's shouldn't be there in the first place, he's like has a very pivotal part. And then he gets absolutely whacked with a laser on the side and he just shakes it off and is trying to, and then runs back in time and saves the world.
Yes. That was incredible. I did not see that coming at all. And that was maybe the most beautiful part of the movie, like how that was shot and him like running back in time and like Cyborg like piecing back together. I thought that looked incredible. I totally agree. That was amazing.
I was going off. I was like,
Yeah.
what is going on? Like,
And I know it right at because you saw this movie, you watched this movie before I did. You said, watch, there's one scene of the Flash and it's incredible. It'll blow your mind. I was like, I thought it may have been the one, like his first scene when I forget the name of his love interest, but when he saves her from the car crash. Yeah, I thought, and I was like, oh, this is a really cool scene. But I was like, I don't know, is this the scene BK was talking about? And then at the end, I was like, no, this is the scene. This is the for sure the scene. Yeah,
100,
it was amazing.
dude, just the direction and the art style. And like, that's where I feel like that scene really just captured like as a director, if like he, like my, like, I've realized like Zack Snyder just isn't the strongest writer, but when he's given a kick-ass script, then like, and he adds his visual touch like Watchmen, then like
Oh yeah.
a scene with the Flash is like something he would absolutely like. That was like an unbelievable scene.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, like that I would have to say that hands down is my favorite. Like even like the part where in the beginning when the Flash is just escorting people out and then he saves those people by, you remember that part where he's like blocking the rocks from falling on the crowd of people?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dude, that part they cut that out and I was like that part was really cool. Um yeah, so I think my favorite though was like the little character moment. So like the part where Flash gets shot and then he's like, "Oh, Barry, are you okay?" And he's like, "Oh, got the wind knocked out of me," and he just has a gaping hole in his side. So
It's a
sick.
very like Steve Rogers
Yeah.
line, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tough
Yeah.
through it. Yeah. No, I agree with all that. I mean, I think one of the most improved parts of this movie was just the characters, like all the characters. I even thought, I mean, the villain, like I thought Steppenwolf was such an improved character.
100%.
He actually had we actually understood like what his motive was. He looked so much better. Like he looked so much more menacing. His armor was awesome. I thought that was so cool.
Three.
Um, yeah. And I mean, he just like, and just like his overall presence was just more menacing in general. Like he just wasn't that scary in the theatrical cut. And in this, he was awesome. So I think like he was really improved. What do you think of Darkseid? Like, what would you think? What'd you think of his
Uh
addition?
yeah, so that's kind of, so I love that he was there and I love that he was a part of like the bigger movie. I loved the scene where we actually got to see his Omega beams when he, do you remember like that vision?
Yes, yes.
And he kills
He's
Arthur.
underwater, and yeah,
Dude, oh my
that
god.
was awesome.
But I wish that's why I wish we could have another scene like we would have seen him and Superman absolutely duking it out, like going like, and Superman going all out and just just the potential, like the potential of the later movies is unreal. you
Yeah,
know we got a post-apocalyptic world, dark side villain, whatever this anti-life equation was. I looked into
yeah.
it.
Let's. I want to save this discussion for the end because I do want to talk about where you think like DC goes from here, and if we actually think like we could see more of this Snyder vision. So let's save that, because I think that'd
What
be a good topic to end on. Yeah.
other parts were your favorites?
Yeah. I thought the scene with when they're showing I don't know when it was, like thousands of years ago, when Diana is talking to Bruce Wayne about like the history of the mother boxes and when Steppenwolf first came. So instead, they completely, well, obviously Darkseid was completely cut out of the theatrical version, but they had this scene in the theatrical version, but instead it was Steppenwolf like dropping from the ship and fighting everyone. Now it was Darkseid, and I thought it was so much cooler. And then I like, it was like Zeus fighting him, and then the lantern and all that. Like, I
Yeah.
just thought that was such a cooler scene when he drops from that ship and lands, and then like he grabs like the dirt. I was like, this is awesome. Like, it was so epic, so
He
epic. So
his hand.
yes, yeah. So that was, I mean, that was probably one of my favorite parts. I thought so. One of my biggest issues in the theatrical cut was Superman's return. I thought it was rushed. I didn't think it was deserved. Like, it just, none of it really made sense to me. Like, we all knew he was going to come back, right? But I thought the way they did it was really, it just didn't work for me. And I think in this one, they pretty much did it the same way. They brought him back, like they used the same method to bring him back, but there was more story around it. Like, they had a couple more parts with Lois Lane, like showing how much she was struggling with his death. And, she was visiting the monument, like every day. And then, they bring him back. And then instead of Batman calling her in, right, like he did in the theatrical cut, this was the last day that she was going to visit the monument. She was going to, like she was going to get over this and, like try to move on with her life. And then the last day she visits, like, is when they bring back Superman, and he's right there. I thought that was perfect. I thought that was such a better way to, like, bring them back together in this movie. I don't know. His just like him come back to life just felt way more deserved in this movie. Would you feel about that?
Dude, yeah. So I think that uh that the so like the return, like first of all, I just want to point out that your point about Lois Lane like really like going through some hardships was a really good point, because what I hated about the Whedon cut was like she was fine, like she was totally like there was
Yeah.
no real moment where you could feel her grief. And later, like in the theatrical cut, when she like tells Superman, like, "Oh, I wasn't being strong," I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, you barely noticed he was gone." And in the Snyder cut, like you could really feel that she was grieving, right? And she was like not handling the loss well at all. And I thought that really set up a lot, because like when he actually returned, you could like, and you saw her like running over to him, and like it just made his return a lot more impactful, right? And then so I do want to point out, so there's this video by Thomas Flight that compares a lot of Snyder cut versus the Whedon cut, and he chooses this one moment where Lois Lane talks with Martha, Superman's mother, in both cuts. And in the theatrical cut, when the two are talking, the Martha, Superman's mom, says something along the lines of, "You don't have to add another mother-in-law to your list, to your already large list of concerns," or something like that, right? And it's like a very jokey, very lighthearted way of saying, she's not really, doing too well, but she's fine, right? And then in the Snyder cut, when the two are talking, she says, "I'm doing fine. I found a place much more suited for me. It's right by a little small restaurant. I'm not here asking for help," right? And I feel like the way that the two lines are really portrayed really goes to show like where the focus of the two movies are, right? So the first one, they're like really not trying to show that she's really having a hard time, right? And they're just trying to keep things very lighthearted. But in the second one, she says that she found a really small place because she lost a farm, but she's not here to ask for help, right? And it just really goes to show that she's having a much more difficult time. You really feel that in like the Snyder cut as opposed to the theatrical cut. And I thought
Yeah.
that was a really good point that the video made, this Thomas Flight guy. made about how different the tones are in the two movies. And that's kind of also a bit of my problem. So I didn't really like that it was actually like the Martian Manhunter that was saying that. I really wish that
Yeah.
was actually Superman's mom.
I kind of
But
agree. I think it did Martha a little bit of a disservice, honestly, like her character. But yeah, I agree with that. And I've seen that take elsewhere too. Like people are they're like, oh, this is awesome that we got to see Martian Manhunter, but like he also showed up in the end, right? When he visited Bruce Wayne, like why couldn't he have just been there? Why'd he have to be Martha visiting? Why couldn't it actually have been Martha visiting Lois Lane? I think it would have given that scene a little more, I don't
yeah,
know, more weight.
just really took away from a lot of the things that
Yeah,
man's mom should have been saying anyways, you know. So
agreed. Yeah,
but just going back to Superman's return, there's a lot of things that I really liked about it. The first one is that it sets up the Flash's like time traveling for later. He like mentions that he's gonna, when he approaches the speed of light, he it's a rule with him, but he generates a ton of energy, and then he goes through and he does that, and then later he does break it, and then it's the coolest scene in the movie, right? So I like that. And then Superman's return, I like that he didn't talk. He's it just made him seem a lot more confused when he like picks up Batman and then says like tell me, do you bleed and stuff. I'm like, okay, but I thought you were like discombobulated. Why
yeah, totally agree. Made no sense.
doesn't make any sense at all. Like you're totally coherent, so what's your problem right now?
Yeah,
um yeah, so and then just the overall fight scene I thought had a lot better flow to it. And for some reason, I like the scene where the Flash is running and Superman sees him and then is like hits him while he's in super speed a lot better. And I just thought it worked a lot better in the Snyder cut than the Whedon cut. Just overall flow of all the scenes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree with all that. Let's talk about Aquaman. We haven't really touched on Aquaman too much. I like Aquaman. I think Jason Momoa as Aquaman is really cool. I think like the route they're going with that is awesome because in the comics and like the animated movies and stuff, he's kind of just like a blonde hair, blue eyed, like white dude, right? And I think like having a guy who looks like Jason Momoa, like a little more like exotic kind of and stuff. Like I think that's such a better. I think he's a perfect casting. Honestly, I love him as Aquaman. So I like the route, like the direction they went with that. I did not like how much of a cowboy he was in the theatrical cut,
Yeah.
and I thought that was like really weird. And then in this one, like he still had that kind of vibe to him, but it wasn't as bad. Like he didn't have as many like weird little quips and sayings that were like very cowboy, and I thought that was like so much better in the Snyder cut. So I liked him more in this for sure. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts on him were.
Agreed. What I noticed was he like didn't have any quips at all, and I think his character works a lot better as like as a very serious character. Like do you remember in the theatrical cut they made like the lasso joke where he was like sitting on like the lasso of truth?
Yeah,
it was funny, but like the fact that they took that out and just really just kept him as like a very serious character, and he's supposed to be like this loner, and I really saw him as much more of a loner in this movie, as opposed to theatrical, where I feel like he was just some, like you said, kind of like a cowboy like guy who just kind of did what he wanted. And then so like the scene where he's like walking across the like onto the harbor and he's like drinking that bottle of whiskey and he throws it. In the theatrical cut, they use like a bunch of like rock music and then portrays it as like a really cool badass scene. And it's it kind of works. But then in the Snyder cut, they used a much more slower scene or slower music. I forget what the actual song is called, but the lyrics talk about like fighting demons, fighting inner demons, and how like the world is not a perfect place. And I felt like that also really suited where Aquaman was as a character at that point in time a lot better than the Snyder cut. Instead of portraying it as just like a generic, like cool scene that Aquaman, he's just chucking a bottle of whiskey and he's just going to dive into the water.
Yeah.
It's a much more character centric moment where, he's fighting inner demons and, he's drinking out of like a misery, and I really like that part too. So I really like the Aquaman as a much more serious character, and I think Jason Momoa portrays that kind of character a lot better. Also,
I
uh,
agree. Yeah, and it shows, right, like how much such a small thing can like change the entire scene, right? Because I think like the idea of him chugging a bottle of whiskey and like the ocean's just like all around him is awesome. But like you said, in the theatrical, it's like playing some rock. And I
yeah,
forget, I like can hear the song in my head, but I forget the song. But like I would, if I played it, we would know exactly what it was. But like, just the change of that music and like it just changes the whole tone of the scene, and I think it just makes it so much better. So it just shows like what a small change can do, honestly.
it's like again, that's my biggest surprise is like how character centric this movie was. In Batman v
Yeah,
Superman, like I just kept expecting like an ideological character centric movie that time. And Batman and Superman, they have a combined dialogue of like less than a minute before they fight, and so I was like, what the
yeah,
heck? So like that's what I was expecting to this. So I was just very taken back at how many like character moments there were, and how much care he put into these characters. So
yeah,
again, yeah, but he needed
yeah.
4 hours to do it. So I don't.
Well, and that's the thing, right? That's what I keep thinking about. Like he did have 4 hours to do it. So how much would have been like? Would we have seen as much Lois Lane in the 2.5 hour cut? Like, no, probably not. Even going back to the Superman coming back, right? Like he even built that up more before he went then and fought Steppenwolf at the end. Like he had a couple more scenes with Superman to build up, like him, like he needs some time, right, to like kind of find himself again. He didn't just like go back to the farm and then like go fight, which is basically what he did in theatrical. So and he visited Alfred, which was awesome. I like that scene a lot. I thought that was really cool. Did that scene happen in theatrical?
No, it did
It
not.
didn't, right? Okay, I didn't think so. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, again, it goes back to like the 4 hour, because I think that was a lot of like one gripe a lot of people had with this movie is just like I couldn't sit through 4 hours. I personally sat through the 4 hours. But I had a a lot of food and a couple beers. So I planned my Saturday out for that. So I mean, I'm a nerd, so I can sit through a comic book movie at however long it is. But I get it. I mean, 4 hours is a long time. A long time to sit through. So, I think in a way it works and it doesn't. Like it's a pro and a con that it's 4 hours. So it's kind of interesting.
This only could have been released as like a HBO Max. I
I
think
agree.
it should have been released as just like a 4-part series. I think it would have been a
Well,
lot
I've
more.
heard that people said like, oh, this could have been a mini series, right? Like 4 episodes. I'm like, yeah, that would have worked actually. The way he split it up into parts, I think that would have worked.
Yeah, I think that would have made things a lot easier for viewers too. For especially, like for like the uninitiated. Like I recommended this movie to all my friends, and like 4 of them saw it and like 2 of them just like hated it. They were like, what
Yeah.
I what's going on? And they were
Yeah.
like, this is so long. It says 4 hours, right? And I was like, oh yeah, no kidding. I liked it because me and you, we are avid fans.
Yeah.
We were if it's a good movie, we're gonna sit through like 5-6 hours of it, no problem. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Definitely.
but like for the uninitiated, I think that it would have been better if it broke up into like a mini series. But no way this would have worked in theaters though. No way.
No, no, and it wouldn't have. It's interesting too. They so apparently when Warner Bros came to Snyder then and they're like, all right, yeah, we want you to release your cut. They said because so what happened was when he left the set, like when he left the project, he had his laptop and he had like his version on his laptop. That's all he had of the movie. And I'm pretty sure he said it was in black and white. I got all this from that Vanity Fair article. He said
Yeah.
the movie's in black and white, like there was no really like production around it and stuff. And then when Warner Bros came to him and said, "We want you to release your cut," they asked, "Can you just release like what you have?" And he's like, "Absolutely not. Like this is not ready to be released." And then I think they were also trying to get him to like change certain things and like reduce the time. He's like, "Listen," he's like, "I am. We're not doing this again." Basically, is what he was saying. He's like, "I'm going to do it my way if we're going to do this," and it's worked out, right? It's worked out for everyone because people have really liked this movie. Um, so yeah, but you're right. I mean, this would never have been released in theaters as a 4 hour movie. That just
Yeah.
doesn't happen. It
I'm
just
not
doesn't
gonna
happen.
lie. Like I think I was like watching it, especially like the cyborg scenes when he's like getting used to his powers and stuff. Like that could have been a lot of that could have been like cut down. That I think that alone, like the 2 scenes where he's just going through like his powers, and then you see like the bull and for the stock market and everything, the bull and the bear fighting, and I'm watching this. I'm like, okay, this is really cool, but damn, this is long as shit.
It was, yeah, it was.
And then he has two of the scenes, two scenes where he just goes over his powers. So like I'm like watching it, I'm like, okay, like I can kind of understand why some of the studio execs saw this movie and they were like, bro, like you're not releasing a 4 hour movie. Like I definitely understand like in that sense where they were coming from. But I think, the story, like even if they were like cut things down, like this couldn't be shorter than like 3.5 hours max, so
Yeah,
um
yeah.
but
I'm kind of glad it happened the way it did, honestly,
I
because
think
I think the 4 hours we needed it just to get everything.
and now I really, I hope it's successful enough that we get another movie. I want to see Ben Affleck again.
Agreed. Yeah.
I want to see this extended, and I want to see Ben Affleck do his own Batman movie. I've been looking into like what that Batman movie is. That shit sounds crazy, bro. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we get that movie someday, and maybe this continues because there seems like there's a lot of stories to be told.
Definitely, definitely. Let's go back to, you brought up Cyborg. I feel like we haven't talked about him too much. I do feel like uh a lot of the emotions in this movie were centered around Cyborg and his story. Like he was kind of the centerpiece, in my opinion. Which what do you think of that? I thought that was really cool. I mean, just like, his relationship with Silas Stone, his dad, I thought that was really cool. We got more of him, and I thought he was a cool character. And they just showed, they showed the Star Labs, I think it's called, which I thought was really cool, which they didn't show too much of in the first one, in the theatrical. So yeah, what'd you think of all that?
Yeah. I remember reading how I think that was like one of Zack Snyder's biggest problems was that when he heard that Cyborg was like essentially pushed to being like a side character, that's one of the parts that hurt him the most about the Whedon cut. Because he always intended Cyborg to be that centerpiece, like you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought his character was unbelievable. His relationship with his dad, oh my gosh, tragic, absolutely
Mm.
tragic. And the fact that the dichotomy that those two had, where they were what a such a strained relationship, and just being able to see his backstory and why he blames his father so much, and like you understand, and like that whole arc, I thought was like was was really good. I thought it was really, really well done, to be honest. And
Yeah.
then, when Silas gives his life, and him and his son have been at constant ends, and then the tape recorder, and then he puts together the tape recorder at the end of the movie. Dude, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused what the extent of his powers are. It seems like he can pretty much do like anything he wants.
Yeah.
Which is I mean, and I know that he's explained as like he's basically a quantum computer, which is cool, but I don't know, like he puts together the tape recorder. I was like, wait, what? Like some of it I don't really understand. But maybe that's just like my lack of comic knowledge, right? Of like Cyborg and just kind of DC in general. Because I feel the same way about Wonder Woman. Like she seems like she could just trade blows with Superman, right? Like, I mean, she essentially seems like she's kind of as strong as him. Um, but I never really like knew much about Wonder Woman, but like when I watch this movie, that's kind of the feel I get.
Yeah.
So like some of it, I'm just kind of I except for Batman, right? I don't really know like the extent of their powers. Which is always, it's something we deal with, I think, in every comic. Like even Marvel, we deal with that too, right? Where like you don't it's not always explained like how powerful these people are. So it kind of is what it is. But I don't know. That's just something I was thinking of when I was watching this.
No, I'd agree. I think Cyborg seems a lot more powerful than I think I've ever seen of any other iteration of him.
Mhm.
Even animated movies, like
Yeah.
piece together the tape recorder again. I was like, whoa, that's
Yeah. That really got me. I was like, wait, what? I didn't know he could do that.
outside of the internet. I thought he was like just connected to all things computer wise. I didn't know he
Yeah.
had any physical capabilities like that.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I thought and like I thought his portrayal of like when he was like learning the powers, I thought it was overlong, but that really small storyline of him helping the single mom and like her son, and like getting her like the money she needed to so that she didn't get kicked out of her apartment. that struck the right chord with me,
It was
So
cool. It was cool. Yeah. I think especially right now too, like with everything going on, I don't know, that was kind of interesting to see. It kind of had more weight this time around, right? Like, cause you kind of see similar scenes like that in a lot of movies, right? Like someone struggling, like a single mom struggling with money or something like that, a single parent. And I don't know, I think seeing that now was kind of cool. So I agree. I like that part.
yeah.
Um, so I think, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
when I watched that part, she's like standing at the ATM questioning. I'm like, just take the money and run, go.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I think we've given the movie a lot of praise.
Constant.
What are some things that you didn't like? I know, there are a couple things we mentioned. I know you mentioned the slow mo in the very beginning. You mentioned slow mo. I thought, and that's kind of a Snyder staple, right? I think the slow mo is cool, but there was a lot of it in this movie. A little like if honestly, if you probably cut half the slow mo scenes, it probably would have taken 20 minutes off the movie. There was a little too much slow mo for me. I don't know what you think of that, but
Especially the Themyscira part. I thought overall, like the whole fight scene with Steppenwolf versus like the Amazonians, so much slow mo, just constant slow mo.
yeah,
I was definitely getting thinking it was a little overdone. Like I thought, to be honest with you, if I had to pick one part, like the Whedon cut of the Themyscira, I thought was pretty fair. Like he cut out a lot of like unnecessary stuff for that scene. But like that scene, and then just like towards the end, there was just constant slow mo. But I think my biggest problem, other than the slow mo and definitely some unnecessary scenes, was I mentioned the handling of Batman's character.
hmm
So, like my biggest problem was, you see like Superman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, The Flash, all just essentially with God given, just God level powers, right? And they're just running through these guys. And, Batman, obviously he's a human, but he's like the peak level. He's supposed to be like the peak level of human fitness, right? So if there's anybody, he's supposed to be like an Olympic caliber athlete in all phases, right? So if anything, he shouldn't have been, he was getting tossed around by parademons like left and right, and the only time he was even able to fight back was when he had guns, or when he picked up one of their guns, or he got into a giant robot,
yeah,
and uh, so essentially, like the only contributions that he made to the team, especially towards the end, was just technology and just giving them money and just providing them a home to do their bases, to do all their work in. And I just felt like that really kind of went against the purpose of Batman. When you listen to like Matt Reeves talk about Batman, who's the director for the new upcoming Batman movie, you can really tell how well he understands the character, right? And Batman's two, like probably three biggest strengths are, first of all, his ability to endure. Like he is, like indomitable will. That is like his main characteristic, right? But then it's also right, other than his principles, it's his intellect, right? And
hmm
and I feel like that was the part that just really didn't, that the movie didn't really touch upon, is his ability to just be able to figure his way out of any situation.
hmm
There's a movie called, animated movie Apocalypse that I talked to you about, where Batman, essentially, Darkseid is fighting against Superman and these other, the Justice League, that full of gods, right? But Batman, at the end of the day, is, spoiler alert, is the one that saves the day, and it's not by using any superpowers or technology or anything like that. It's by using his mind.
hmm
And you should definitely watch the movie, because it really just goes to show like how capable of a person Batman really is without any technology, right? So I just wish that he just paid more, just gave Batman a little bit more love in that area. Just seeing him just constantly on the sidelines while all the fighting was going on, just really kind of like, as a Batman fan, I was like, that's just not, Batman would find a way,
yeah.
like he, but yeah, I think that's my biggest gripe. I just so moving forward, though, I know Ben Affleck is directing, was supposed to direct like his own Batman movie. So I really hope he gets a chance to do that because I know he's a
Yeah.
big.
Yeah, I like him a lot as Batman. I think he's really cool. I think he's a good Bruce Wayne. Like I said, he's kind of a like an older, darker Bruce Wayne. He's almost like Dark Knight Returns, like the animated movie. Like he's almost like he reminds me of that kind of Bruce Wayne. Just like he's just seen a lot. He's just he's you get he's just kind of like broken inside. I don't not maybe not broken, but I mean that's just Bruce Wayne, right? Like he's a yeah, he just has a lot of darkness in his life. And I think he plays that really well. So, and I agree with what you said. I think, but it's tough because I mean, this is the tough part about having Batman in the Justice League in general, right? Like he's on a team of, like you said, like gods, basically, like people with these god like powers, and then there's him who he is a human, albeit he's like an amazing fighter. He's like a
No,
he's kind of bordering like super soldier status, but like not quite, I guess. But
you have Captain America who literally fights with a shield.
yeah,
Well,
right. And Batman has all the gadgets in the world. I will say, I think he did have some cool stuff in this movie. I mean, with when I think the scene where whatever, I don't know what they were calling it, but like the ship thing he had, right? When they like take it to go to wherever country that was. I don't know if that was Russia or whatever. Like in the final scene when they go to confront Steppenwolf, and he like shoots all his missiles at the at the shield thing and like brings down the shield. Like he basically does that alone. I thought that was cool. I thought and like he kind of like he drops the Justice League off at like the one area, and then they're like, well, how are you going to take this out? He's like, I'll take care of it. And then he just like goes and does it on his own. I thought that was cool. I thought, the part where, he's in the Batmobile was awesome. He's basically just taking on like hundreds of parademons on his own for like a good minute or two. I thought that was cool. So, I mean, I think he had some good parts. Yeah, most of it was like centered around technology. And then you're right. When he was kind of on the ground, like he had to use like their guns to like fight them, or else like he was getting kind of destroyed, which you're right. Like that's kind of stupid. But I, it's tough, right? It's tough to like, cause we both love Batman. We want to see Batman like do, use the extent of his abilities, but he has like six other heroes he has to, you have to bring into the fold. So it's tough. I kind of, I kind of see both
yeah,
sides.
which is why I think I forgive him for it, but
Yeah.
uh, I think that's just as a Batman fan, that's like my problem. I do just want to praise Ben Affleck in his portrayal because it is so good. Just to see, like he just looks so tired, and like you can just see,
Yes.
and like especially in Batman, I loved just seeing how like he just looks so tired, and then and just seeing like how dark the dark history that he has with the Robin suit and like Joker, and just like you can feel like all like the burden that he carries on his shoulders,
Yeah.
and I absolutely love that. Was it just me, or Ben Affleck lost a ton of weight, I think, right?
So
Like
you mean like from theatrical to Snyder cut?
yeah, like I think like I could I felt like I could tell when, I know there were reshoots for the Snyder cut,
Mhm.
and for me, like there were some scenes where Ben Affleck looked like really, really good. Like he looked lean, and he looked like he kind of looked like George Clooney. And I was really shocked at how good he looked. So but
I mean,
yeah, I'm just
he was big in Batman vs Superman, dude. He was huge. Like they show him like working out before, which is kind of weird. It's like a Rocky scene, like he's working out before he fights Superman. I thought that was kind of silly, but man, he is a beast. Like he definitely put on some muscle for this role for sure. Yeah.
um but yeah, man, I just I just want to see I want to see him acting like that more. I don't want to see the Whedon cut Batman ever again, but I want to see the Snyder cut Batman for many more movies. There's a
Yeah.
Flash movie coming out. Did you know that?
A Flash movie.
Yeah.
I know that like they have, all these solo movies planned for these characters. I just like I don't know kind of where they're left off from here. Like I'm not sure exactly what's planned, but
Talk about that next.
yeah, so I know we're kind of coming up on the hour mark. So I know we want to, kind of talk about where we think DC's going. I do want to, there's like a couple things I want to mention, just kind of lightning. We don't have to get into them.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I think the beginning, the very beginning, where they show Superman die, and then his like death cries are like sonic waves that go out, and those what initiate the mother boxes. I thought was really cool. I thought that was a really good way to start it, and it, explained like why the mother boxes came online. I think in the theatrical cut, it was just because Steppenwolf like showed up. Like, I don't even know. I don't even think people even knew why they started up. So I thought that was cool. Um, I think the idea that so I think it's kind of funny that so Darkseid, has like basically the technology to like travel interstellar distances, and like he comes to Earth on all these ships, and then he's fighting with like an axe, and he loses to like Vikings and like Amazons that are using swords and stuff. I think is kind of a funny concept. I know it's like it makes it cooler, right? Like if Thanos had a gun in Avengers Endgame, it wouldn't have been as cool with like instead of like he had a double-sided sword, it was awesome, right? Like, but
Right.
these they're literally traveling like interstellar distances. Like they could just shoot them with like a Death Star thing and you destroy everyone,
Whooped, dude.
Yeah,
Darkseid comes to Earth and he gets his ass whooped.
he does. He does. So I thought, but I don't know, just the concept that's kind of funny. And then, yeah, the only other thing I want to talk about was we didn't really talk about how this is rated R versus the theatrical, which is PG-13.
Yeah.
So what did you think of that? Like, I mean, I thought, obviously it added to it. Like there was blood, like people got chopped in half. I mean, Steppenwolf's head gets chopped off at the end. Like that was pretty cool. But I'm wondering if they would have allowed that release in theaters. Like I don't
I want
know.
to. I'm not gonna lie to you. I want more rated R movies. I think
Yeah.
it just increases like the creative freedom that the directors have. And like let's take The Dark Knight for example, right? The one of my favorite movie of all time, right? And God bless Heath Ledger. But I have wondered, what if that movie was rated R? You
Yeah.
know, that movie that could have taken that movie to different heights, man. So I just think like I when Darkseid gets hit with the
Yeah. And like the collarbone.
yeah, right there, dude, so much
Dude, he's
blood, so
like gushing blood. Yeah, it's crazy.
much blood.
Yeah.
So and then I thought it really worked because not maybe more than the PG-13 uh sense is like the themes there's a lot of people that died in this movie and then when they have the visions of like Aquaman getting stabbed and Wonder Woman's funeral, and I think that's some like really heavy stuff, things that and then who knows what that projects for like the future movie. So I'm hoping we stay on this rated R. The Ultimate Edition was also rated R. So I think the rated R like comic book movies is that next frontier. So
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm okay with like the DC kind of being the dark rated R like comic book, and then Marvel being, a little more lighthearted like PG-13. Like I think it works for their characters and just like the direction they want to go. Because clearly DC has shown that they want to go a little more darker, but then problem was that Dawn of Justice was too dark for people, which I didn't personally think that was the problem with it, but whatever. And then they're like, all right, we need to lighten it up. And then, Justice League, the theatrical was just too light and like too many little, they try to make it too much like the Avengers, and it's just not the Avengers. Right. So I agree with you. I think, I would like to see more rated R comic movies. I understand both sides. Like I understand why they wouldn't, they're trying to get like kids in the theaters, but honestly, man, I feel like 9-year-olds play like GTA now. So like whatever. I mean, I remember I saw Deadpool in theaters and I saw kids in that movie. I was like, did parents think this is gonna be like a normal Marvel movie? Like, no, this is Deadpool. Like, this is a raunchy ass movie. So who knows, man? I think they could get away with rated R. I don't see it as a problem. But yeah, from there, I guess let's finish up with kind of the future of DC. I mean, I don't, I know that like Henry Cavill is done as Superman, right? Affleck's done as Batman. I know that Snyder has said he's not going to do like, I think his plan was to do a Justice League trilogy, and it sounds like that plan is not going to happen. But it sounds like they do still have, a lot of projects in mind that they're working on. So I don't know, where do you think they're going from here, and what do you know of that they're working on now?
it's a damn shame that I hope they change their mind, because I want to see more post-apocalyptic Batman. I want
Yeah.
to see him wearing that, that duster jacket and just and with the goggles on his head and post-apocalyptic world, dude.
Working with like a ragtag team of like Joker, Deathstroke. Like they had such random. I loved it. I thought that was so cool. So
That's
cool.
one of the coolest characters I've ever seen is
Yeah,
post-apocalyptic Batman. This
I
nightmare.
agree.
Um, but yeah, I just want to say one thing that I do want to say is that scene, that short dialogue that the Joker has with Batman, unreal,
Yeah.
unreal. First of all, Jared Leto's Joker is so much better. His laugh is still a little cringy for me. It sounds like a door creaking, but I think
Yeah, I agree with that. It's
I
exactly what it sounds like.
but it worked a lot better, and I think it just goes to show like how important like a director's vision goes for something like that.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
Jared Leto's Joker and Ben Affleck, and actually based around like this death of Robin and crazy. Like I wish we could have explored that more. And they seem to have such an interesting relationship already. Batman, he swears he's gonna kill the Joker someday. Oh, God,
I
dude.
know. Like, how cool is that? And like Joker's messing with him about Robin, and then Batman's like, "Well, when I was holding Harley Quinn in my arms, like blah blah," blah, I was like, "This is
Yeah.
fucking cool." Yeah. I mean, I think I'm glad we got to see this version of Batman and Joker on screen together, even if it was for like 2 minutes. It was a little longer than 2 minutes, but yeah, I agree. Like, we needed to see that, even if these movies don't continue, like we needed that, right? Like it just we had to
Yep.
have that. And I mean, say they do continue, right? Like I don't think they should center a Batman movie around Joker. We already saw what the peak of that is, right? Like I don't think no one's gonna beat that Heath Ledger Joker, but like we still want to see Joker involved in Batman movies. And if he's involved in like a different capacity where he's not like the main villain, but like he's involved in a pretty big way. And even like you said, like this post-apocalyptic world where they're like all trying to survive, but like they still fucking hate each other, you know? I think that's so interesting. I think that's so
Unreal.
interesting. Yeah.
Unreal. The fourth
Um,
together. Are you kidding me? And we're
yeah,
not. Come on.
yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. No, I agree, man. I really hope, and I think it could happen, right? Like we never thought Snyder Cut was gonna be released, and look what happened, right? So I think Snyder could be like he could come back and say, I'm gonna, I'll finish out this trilogy. Um, I don't know. Who knows, man? I know he's working on some other stuff right now. So like who knows where his priorities are. I think this whole thing's been such a weird experience, right? That like, you know, I don't know if he's gonna want to deal with Warner Bros again for two more movies or however many more movies he plans on doing. But man, I want to see a Batman Deathstroke movie. I really do.
I
Like,
know you love Arkham Origins, man, and
oh, dude, and like Deathstroke's such a cool character, and like just like I feel like the hand to hand combat scenes in that movie would be incredible, incredible.
fight, bro. Give me 3 hours of just them fighting. That's all.
Dude, I don't even need much plot. I don't even just give me the fights. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I hope we see that. I know you did mention that they're making like a Flash movie. I know they're making like a Black Adam movie, right? With like The Rock in it, I think is on the table.
I think the DCEU is in such a I saw that they are saying that the theatrical cut of the Justice League is still officially canon. So anything
It
that
is. Okay.
well, that's what the executives are saying, and apparently the Snyder cut is like just like a
I wonder if they change that.
dude. They should like. Are
They're
you
like, all
kidding?
right, no, Whedon's is non-canon, Snyder's is canon now. Like they could do that and be like, all right, yeah.
But yeah. So I don't know what's gonna be included in the universe. What's not this Flash movie though sounds really cool. Apparently there's we're gonna see Ben Affleck coming as Batman. We're gonna see Michael Keaton coming back as Batman.
Oh,
And
wait, really?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's interesting.
I don't know. I don't know what the plot of the movie is, but have you seen like a Flashpoint Paradox? I think you have.
Yes.
Dude, awesome.
Yeah, that's immediately what I thought when you said Michael Keaton. Like he could play like the
Dude,
oh my god, I'm forgetting his name, but the dad, his dad,
Thomas
Thomas
Wayne.
Wayne. Yeah, yeah.
Dude.
Such a cool concept. Such a cool concept.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now, right? So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, but yeah, so I think that's what it's going to be based off of is Flashpoint Paradox, and I think the Flash, going back in time to save the world, sets it up really nicely for Flashpoint Paradox.
Okay.
Hopefully, I know that movie is going through a lot of production troubles right now, but
Of course.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going to be coming to fruition. I did see another article about Robert Pattinson's Batman going to be like the main leading Batman moving forward for the DCEU. I don't know how that's
Okay.
going. I don't know how that's going to work into what's going on right now, but that's just one article that I saw. So it just seems like it's in a really weird place. To be honest with you, I don't think the executives even know like what they're going to do right now. I think they're just flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah.
And maybe we should send them an email being like, "Here's what you should do," and then help them out. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is kind of their time, right? Because Marvel, they're starting to ramp up again with shows, but they don't have anything like crazy big, like big team ups or anything like that. So I mean, this is
I think
DC's time, man.
this is like the most momentum they've ever had for the DCEU.
Yeah.
Like,
Because after this Snyder Cut, people want more, like you and I. Like that's where they're at now. I think people are kind of done. Like they wrote off DC and now they're like, nah, we want more. We want to see more of this.
After Batman v Superman, it was like I wish they doubled down on the dark tone when they were getting hammered by critics for it being too dark. I wish they just doubled down on it and then just started like really just making shit really dark. But instead, they tried to like double back on it and just went the wrong way. But that being said, I think that was kind of like their biggest mistake. As much as a mess that Batman v Superman was, I think like the ideas it was trying to install were some of them were really good. Like the Batman.
I agree. Agreed. Yeah.
We'll have to see. Yeah, man. I also saw that Zack Snyder might direct the next Wonder Woman movie.
Okay.
Which would also be pretty cool.
Did you see 1984?
I did.
What'd you think of that? Just quick. Yeah, dude, did not like it. I totally agree.
Is that it was terrible.
Yeah, I thought the first one was really good, like really, really good. And then I thought second one was not good at all. But yeah, man. So I mean, I think we've said everything we have to say about this movie. So I don't know what I think, we should decide kind of what movie or show we want to review next. I don't know what shows you're watching. I know there's different movies coming out on HBO Max over the next couple months.
Okay.
I know Godzilla vs. Kong just came out. I haven't watched that yet, but it could be something we want to review. I don't know. We'll find something.
Yeah. Dude, I'm down to do anything. Have you seen WandaVision?
I did. Yes.
Do that.
Yeah, I liked it.
Great show. I'm watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier right now, but I'm falling off on it pretty hard. It's
really?
As good as I thought WandaVision was, I'm not a big fan of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Okay. I like it so far. It's like a different kind of show. But that's fair.
Keep an eye out for this. Like most of the show is them referencing old movies. It's like and then once I realized that, I couldn't stop noticing it. And then I realized
you mean old Marvel movies or just like old movies in general?
Half their dialogue is like them being like, "Oh yeah, well in like movie 3, I remember when I said this, and then you did that," and then Bucky's like, "Yeah, well in the next movie, I remember I did that."
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's very like buddy cop, Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's just like it's just kind of reaching a point where I want the show to like stand on its own 2 feet, and I just feel like right now it's just relying on like the success of like all the other movies, and it's just trying to like ride like their coattails. So whereas like, dude, I thought the writing for WandaVision and like the character of the Vision in general, dude, I thought the Vision was like an amazing character. I really hope, like before I didn't really care when he was gone, but now I really hope he finds a way to just come back.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen. This is but no, I
podcast for that.
Separate podcast. I agree. Hey, before we go, I think one more recommendation. Have you heard of the show Invincible that dropped on Amazon?
No, I have not.
Okay, watch it. It's animated, but it's an animated superhero show. It's kind of like The Boys, but it like centers around like superheroes more, not like a group of dudes like trying to kill the superheroes, and it's extremely gory. there are comics, and they're like, the comics are apparently very, very gory. And watch the first episode and just see what you think. Like, I think you'll like it. So check it out. It's on Prime. So maybe that will be the next show we review.
All right, cool,
But
cool.
all right, man. Well, I'm glad we did this. This was fun.
Yeah, yeah, me too, man.
All right, dude. Well, I'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right, yeah, sounds good.
All right, man. Bye.